Today we will introduce the course Introduction to Quantum Mechanics. Today is our first class. This is Madhumita Dhar. From the next 2 weeks, I will be your instructor for the course. So before beginning, we need to know about why is this quantum mechanics required. What was the reason of discovery of quantum mechanics? Now, before that, we had the course called Classical Mechanics, and the Newtonian mechanics that we all are familiar about is actually part of classical mechanics. But in the late 1800, science was totally understood by the scientist at that time. But due to the major problems arising from experimental advancement after this era, especially from 1800 to 1900, there were many major conflicts and puzzles arrived in the history of science that requires new concept to arrive that could describe these new puzzles. And mainly, there are three major experiments that were very puzzling and required new physics, namely this black body radiation, photoelectric effect, emission spectrum of hydrogen. And these are the three major milestones we can say that led to the discovery of quantum mechanics that we will talk in this course. Now, what is black body radiation? We know that as the two words suggest, it's black body and radiation. Now, what is black body? Black body is something, an ideal kind of object that will absorb all the radiation coming to this. And ideally, we can achieve by creating a black colored body where we have a small hole so that it could absorb all the radiation, but and it gets reflected inside. It is a highly reflecting material inside, and then it cannot go out. Therefore, it can act as a black body radiation. Black body. Now, what is radiation? When you heat this up and you get the energy spectrum out of it, this is called the black body radiation. Now, when this energy spectrum was studied experimentally and was plotted in reference to the wavelength of the energy, this was the experimental curve obtained, which was not explained by the relevant theories that were known by the scientists. And then in 1900, Max Planck was the one who is called the father of quantum mechanics, who introduced the concept of quantization that could solve this. We will discuss in detail. Similarly, the photoelectric effect also is one very important aspect of science that required the cleaning up process of classical mechanics, leading to the quantization of quantum mechanics that we'll also discuss in this class. Now, in short, there are two names which are very much used: quantum physics and quantum mechanics. Now, mechanics is a branch where we study the motion, but quantum physics is much more broader than that, where we can study not only the motion but actually all the systems which are of microscopic world like photons, atoms, nuclei are all quantum physics. And physicists believe that Newtonian laws works only at the macroscopic object. We will see how this is important for us. Now, this quantum mechanics is built upon some principles, and the main is that quantum mechanics is the branch where you study small objects. So if we're talking about a car, you don't need to talk about quantum mechanics. But if we're talking about the atoms, then you need to care about quantum mechanics. And these are very important because if you want to know about this small microscopic world, you have to apply this correct principle to explain the observed phenomena. So classical mechanics in short deals with macroscopic size objects and quantum mechanics deals with microscopic size objects. Now without quantum mechanics, what happens if we don't really bother about quantum mechanics? Then we could not have our mobile phones in our hand because semiconductor devices cannot work. We cannot have our desktops working. We cannot have these online sessions. We cannot have lasers. We cannot have these very high MRI techniques that are very useful in medical science. could not have nuclear reactors, atomic clocks that is used for our GPS systems, etc. But to be very honest, the very first time when quantum mechanics was introduced to the world, it was not very well accepted, and there are many physicists around the world who thought this is a very crazy idea. We will talk about this later, and you will understand why this is so. So, classical mechanics is everything that can be talked